Thank you for coming out on this stormy night. My name is Kathy Benz, and I'm the president of Sarasota County Council of Neighborhood Associations. And let me get my paperwork up. This is the September 13, 2019 meeting of CONA. If you're not familiar with our website, we're videotaping, and we post our videos to our website so that people that can't attend, or if there's information that's presented in the program that they want to follow up on, they can see the video usually the next day. And then we also will post resources on one of our resource pages that are related to the topics of many of our meetings. I don't see any representatives of neighborhood associations here in order to make reports except for Ben, and I think you said it's quiet, or do you want to make a report?
Yeah, just real quick.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello, testing. Hello, my name's Ben, and I live just south of here down 41. Is it popping in and out? It sounds like it, yeah. Man, just pick this. And about a year ago, I found out that Bath and Racket wanted to get into the condo business. So I became a grassroots activist. And I've followed it throughout. There's been 4 community workshops, there's been 5 submittals, and multiple DRC meetings. This is a city matter. I actually live in the county. And the very southern point of the city of Sarasota is the Bath and Racket Tennis Club, which is right behind Trader Joe's. And it's a very busy area. But they want to build 207 condos, 588 parking spots. They want to gain access to the neighborhood via South School Avenue. And it would be 5 times the density of the existing neighborhood. I live in a 1-story single-family home. That'd be RSF2 in zone speak, and like I said, 5 times the density. So we're not NIMBYs. We simply want them to come back to us for something more reasonable, and that just hasn't happened. So we're going to be moving into the planning board stage. Looks like into November. And I'd like to be able to keep people up to date. I don't want to bombard you with a lot of emails, but we have created a Facebook group called South Sarasota Strong that you can visit for a lot of information. And if you share your email, I will be sending out emails notifying people when the planning board meeting will be. It looks like it'll be in November. So we feel confident when we get to the city level. Again, this is a city zone matter, as this is such an extreme overreach in a rezone, in a comprehensive plan amendment, and a major conditional use as well. So we're hopeful at that level, but up until this point, the developers have not been listening to the community. But we're going to keep going. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Chris, you said you didn't need to go into anything. Tom, do you want to talk about what's going on? This is Tom Matrullo. He's with Fresh Start and the Celery Fields.
Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, real quick. The county has been in something of a confused state with regard to the Celery Fields. The Celery Fields, for those who may not be aware, is a magnificent innovation. They put a plateau next to the wetlands out by the east of the highway around Palmer Boulevard. And it's turned into an ecological wonder. The Audubon Society moved there and put a nature center there. It's a glorious place, which then friends of the commissioners wanted to improve by putting a dump next to it. And we have now blocked that, at least temporarily. In January, the county decided the way to go would be to have the planning department do a whole new look called a critical area plan of the area. I managed through public records requests to get an early copy of the draft of this plan. It looks like it's pretty much a reflection of what the county has been thinking all along. Yes, why can't we put industry on these public lands right next to our celery fields? Think about this for a second. Back in 1975, the county thought industry would make sense out there. It probably did. There was nothing there except celery and cows. Today, with what we have there now, to put industry there or to honor that old designation makes pretty much no sense. So it's the opposite, in a way, to use an analogy, of preservation. It's like we have to recognize value even if it's new and has put this old designation, this old zoning, out of the picture. And I think if we think about that, maybe it connects a little bit to the theme tonight. In any event, November 6th is supposed to be the day this comes back before the board, and they may make a decision on that day to approve the planning department going forward with industrial zoning. So we're going to be there, and we're going to say our piece, and then it will come back before the planning commission and all that usual stuff. And we'll be there, and we're not going away. So if you want to join us, think about the board on November 6th as a way to show that you care about this. And thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I wanted to make an announcement regarding the redistricting. The county commissioners have issued just a couple of hours ago the dates for the open houses that they're going to schedule for the citizens to be able to come and look at the maps that are being proposed for the redistricting for the county. I have a copy of this up at the reception desk. These will be open houses. They will have staff there who will demonstrate the proposed plans. There's 3 proposals that their consultant has recommended in order to change the districts. And this has to be done very quickly because we're going into an election year. And so everything's being compressed quite a bit in time. On September 18th, the library in Newtown will be there, what they're calling an open house. September 19th, it will be in Venice. September 23rd, it'll be at the Selby Library in downtown Sarasota. September 25, it's going to be at the Gulf Gate Library. And on the September 30th, it'll be at the Shannon Staub Library in Northport. And this will be information that I'll put up on our website, but that should get into the news pretty quickly. The Sarasota News Leader got us this information the moment that it was released by the county to the press. That's the only reason why I know about this. Yes?
Time of day?
The meetings will be held from 5 to 7 p.m. at these libraries. And that information should be available on the county website as well. Okay. CONA's meetings that are coming up are on October 11th. We're going to have a meeting of the representatives of the local government, the county, the municipalities, and also of the Sarasota Estuary organization, talking about sustainability and their preparations for climate change and sea level rise. And I think that's going to be really very interesting. The city is very much ahead of most people, or most municipalities at this point, in dealing with issues of sustainability So that I think that the city representative and the county representative will be monitoring the meeting and pretty much leading the way as far as the discussion. On November 1, we have our 58th anniversary party, and tickets to that are available, and information about it is on our website. On November 8th, we will be having Tom Matrullo present a discussion of what hopefully turns out in the November 6th meeting. On December 13, we're going to have a discussion of neighborhood concerns about short-term rentals. And that's the Airbnb issue that I think a lot of neighborhoods are very concerned about. Now, we generally have representatives from the neighborhood associations who attend our meetings. Every member organization has a rep that they send to CONA, and that representative distributes the information from our meetings or even the announcements and things. So if you're here representing a neighborhood association, we need your information in order to get our announcements to you and to begin to distribute our information. Okay. I have information about how to join CONA and the reasons for joining CONA over there. If you're a new neighborhood or a new organization or even an individual who's interested in joining, go ahead and take that. And I'm going to introduce Neal Dollar now, who is a representative of the US Census, to talk to you now about the 2020 census.
Hi everyone. Give me just a minute. I had to reboot the projector. I wasn't expecting to do that. So, I'm Neal Dollar. I work for the US Census Bureau. I've been there for 5 months. I'm on a temporary job. It's 12 months long, and then I'll figure out something else to do. But I love my job. All I do is go share about the census and meet interesting people. So it's a great job. So I do have a slideshow that lasts about 10 minutes. So if you'll bear with me. It's okay.
Do you want lights?
Yes, ma'am. If you could turn down the lights, that would be good. There you go.
That's
perfect.
good.
Thank you.
Does that work for you, Tom?
Mm-hmm. That'll be good.
Great. So let me run through these slides with you, and then we can answer questions if you like. So again, Neal Dollar. I live right here in Sarasota. I live in Gulf Gate. That's my neighborhood. I hope somebody here is here from Gulf Gate.
Our vice president is.
Okay. Oh, that's a new fact.
She's president.
Okay. For those that don't know, a little background on the census. It's in the Constitution. It's in Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution. Our forefathers thought it important enough that they wrote it right up front in the Constitution. They required that we do it every 10 years, which is what we do. And it was for two reasons. One was to decide how many legislatures would be sent from each state to Congress. And when we do the census count, it stays that same number for 10 years. And the other reason they do it is for the distribution of federal dollars. And the very first one they did was in 1790. And I think the Constitution was probably finished in like 1787 or something like that. So it was right after that when they started. So they were passionate about it. The first one, they counted 3.9 million inhabitants. And when they got the count back to Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, they thought that was very low and they wanted them to redo it. But it was just too much. You know, back then you went by horseback and wagons to towns and farms to count people. So a little too difficult. So it stayed at 3.9 million people. So we can't do this without the help of our communities, and to include the government. So we work with the county and city governments to actually get the count done. And we also need neighborhood associations because you are close to... Okay, tilt it up. Thanks, Ken. So We need the neighborhood associations as well, because you have tools to get the message out to your neighbors that may not be aware that we're doing the census and how important it is that we actually fill it out. I mentioned it earlier. There's two reasons. One is the political power. When we do the census, it establishes how many representatives from the state of Florida will be sent to Congress. In fact, in 2010, the state of Florida gained 2 additional congressmen. Other states lost. So New York lost 2 congressmen, and we gained 2. The other reason, which to me is even more important, is $675 billion a year gets distributed to the states based on the count we do. And there's a ratio associated with it. It's a lot of money that comes down, and I'll show you where the money goes in just a second. This map depicts 2010 results and how many states won and how many states lost members of Congress. The darker the color, the darker the blue, the more they gained. Texas gained 4, we gained 2. Up in the green, you see they lost seats in the House. So it looks like there's a potential that in 2020 we may gain more seats based on the fact that Florida just keeps growing and growing and growing. This is what I really want to talk about. The federal dollars that get distributed down to the states fund these programs based on the count that we do next year. And again, that number will not change for 10 years until 2030. But it funds these programs: Medicaid, special education, Head Start, Title I school programs, hospitals, highways, foster care, a lot of programs that help our community, especially the areas that need help. So it really is important that we count as many people as we can without cheating and counting extra. So this is interesting. 2010's results for how we did when we actually sent out the questionnaire. Nationally, we had a 72% response rate for people filling out the questionnaire. The state of Florida, 71% in 2000 and 74% in 2010, which doesn't sound bad. Sarasota does well. 2000, we had a 74% response rate. In 2010, 75%, which sounds really good when you look at a national average. But if you think of it like this, that means 1 out of 4 homes didn't fill it out. That's 1 out of 4 of the federal dollars that we would have got. It's not an exact ratio, but it's something like that. 1 out of 4 dollars that goes to federal programs that we want, we're missing out on. So we'd like to see that better this next time. It's going to be different when we do it next year. The goal this time is we're going to do it online. So the goal is to have 95% of the responses come in on the web. So you'll get a card in the mail at your home, at your residence, and on there will be a code, and there'll be a website to go to. You go in there, you answer the 10 questions, and you're done. However, not everybody's going to want to do it online, right? Well, there are backup ways to do it. There's going to be a toll-free number. There'll be operators that speak multiple languages. Right now they're planning on 12 different languages on the toll-free number, where you'll be able to call and ask for help filling it out, ask for how to fill it out through them, through the operator, or will they mail you a questionnaire? So there'll be a good alternative for those folks who don't have access to computers or don't have access to the internet. And then the traditional way will still be available. So they'll do a mailer March the 17th that week to every home in America. The next week they'll do another mailer if you didn't fill out the questionnaire online. The next week they'll do a third mailing, and in that one they'll have the questionnaire. And then the next one, if you don't fill it out, someone's going to come knock on your door and help you fill it out. So it's just easier if you do it up front. So there have been scams related to people like myself wearing a census badge. Anybody can make a badge, right, and show up at your door and say, I'm with the Census Bureau, I need to verify some information, I need your social security number, I need your credit card information, I need your bank statement information just so I can verify that you're who you say you are. And we chuckle when we hear that, but that's already happened already this year. So if you hear about that in your neighborhood association, please, warn, educate the folks that we will never ask for anything like that. That's not what we're there for. And if they do hear that, they probably need to file a police report because they probably lost their...
What information do you ask for?
That is a great question. So we'll ask for name, date of birth, your age, your address, for everyone in the household. And there's 10 total questions. In fact, I have a sample questionnaire. I can email it to you. Kathy, it has all the questions on there, and you can distribute it to all the neighborhoods if you want.
I'd like it on the video here, just for you to speak about.
I don't know that I know every single question. I think the ethnicity might be on there. I'm not sure exactly. So I don't want to take a stab at it and miss something. So if it's okay, I'll send you the questionnaire and then you can post it on the website. That's okay.
What if somebody doesn't have a mailbox at their house?
That's another really good question. In fact, in the rural areas, that's a problem because we won't send it to a P.O. box. They're not going to get the questionnaire in a P.O. box. So what happens is there are teams that will go out and they'll knock on those doors. We know there's a home there and somebody lives there, so we're going to have somebody go out there and fill out the questionnaire with them. So, which is a huge job when you think of the rural areas of Sarasota County and even DeSoto and Hardy County. So, but that's a good question. It will not be mailed to a P.O. box. So this is a question I get a lot. How safe is the data that I'm going to fill out on the questionnaire? The data is secure. In fact, the data is sealed for 72 years. The personal data is. So your name, your any personal data is sealed. In fact, if you went right now and went to the library and looked at a census, you want to see one from 1960 and see where your parents lived and gather that information, it's not there. The most recent one you can find online or through the library would be 1940, because that's been 72 years since then, right? So they take this very seriously. FBI doesn't get the personal data, immigration doesn't get the personal data, the local sheriff's office doesn't get the personal data, and it's a big deal for certain folks, especially out in DeSoto and Hardy County, which is where I also work. There's a huge migrant population there. It's concerned about. I think it might have quit that time. Is it good? Okay. That's concerned about. They don't want. Tilt it. Okay. They don't want their.
If you tilt the end up, it'll always work better.
Okay. Thanks, Kathy. So they don't want their information out there. That's what that does.
It doesn't like it.
I get Google with it, and I just try it out.
Okay. So when I took this job, I took an oath that I wouldn't release any personal information. Every single census employee does that. And if we were to violate that, we face 5 years in a federal prison or $250,000 fine. And nobody that I work with would ever risk that, right? So there are challenges to actually doing the census. We have hard to count indicators for groups that normally don't fill out the census questionnaire. And you can read right there. It's people living in poverty, people on disability, Social Security, minority groups, recent immigrants, rural areas, single parents, and the biggest group we struggle with is children under the age of 5. And so that's probably the biggest group we need to capture, because again, the funding that comes down funds school programs. So we want to capture all of those too. So I don't know why that is. If whoever's the head of the household gets the questionnaire and they're like, well, I don't need to worry about my kids, they just want to know about the adults. Well, that's not true. We want to count every single human being residing in that household. So this map kind of shows the areas of Florida that we know are challenging for us to count. The darker the color on here, the worse they respond typically to the census. And you can see Miami-Dade County, and then the rural areas out in the center of the state and up in the panhandle, the poor areas do a bad job of responding to the census. Oh. Uh-oh. So this is a depiction of Sarasota County. So the darker the color, the lower the response rate in the past on the census, and what they predict is going to be a low response area. And if you look, it's north of Fruitville from downtown, all the way up to the airport, between 41 and 301. That's the primary area that I'm charged to focus in on, to try and get those numbers up so we can get a better count in those areas, because again, it goes to fund the programs that they need, housing assistance and the school programs. So what's our strategy for doing this? The Census Bureau used something called a complete count committee, typically initially led by the local city or county government. Sarasota's working on that right now. A complete count committee is just a group of sub-organizations, typically with education, government, helping agencies that stand up and say, we're going to volunteer and help out to get the word out that we need to count everybody. This kind of lists out some of the organizations that I mentioned a minute ago that'll be setting this up. So again, Sarasota County is in the process of establishing theirs. So you'll see more information about that. They'll be looking for volunteers to actually help out. So it isn't just the government that does a complete count committee, it's also the neighborhood associations, or it's the Hispanic community. This is a community complete count committee. You could go out as CONA and say, we want to do our own complete count committee and get the message out through our neighborhoods that we work with all the time. And it's that simple. And there's benefits to that. We need trusted agents to go out and share the message, because they aren't going to trust a guy like me in some of those communities to come out and tell them to fill out the questionnaire. This is kind of how the census is designed. In the bottom left corner of the slide, you'll see where they've been doing a count. And what that is the last 2.5 or 3 years, they've been gathering data on new construction. Where are the homes out there that we need to send the census to? And that was like a 2-year process. They worked with the county planners, they worked with the city to actually go out and do that. So that establishes where we're going to mail the questionnaire when we mail it out next spring. And then in the top left, that's where we're at right now. That's my job and a lot of other people like me. That's getting the information out to the community that please help us fill out this questionnaire, because it's money for your community. And in the top right is where we do the count. Again, the mailings will go out mid-March, and then we'll wrap it up in probably May. And that's where they finish knocking on doors and tabulate the data. Bottom right is the results of the data gets delivered to the president on December 31st. Again, that's the demographic data. That's not the personal information. So right now we're hiring. In Sarasota, they pay $15.50 an hour. It's temporary work. It's flexible hours. If you know somebody that's looking to work, this is a great opportunity. It comes and goes. It's not full time, and it's not for the next 6 months. There'll be peaks and valleys when they're hiring people and bringing them on board to actually apply for jobs. So if you're interested, there's cards at all the tables that have the contact information about where to go to actually apply. So there's also my cards at the table too. So my job is to go share this information at neighborhood associations and churches. And so if you know of an opportunity, I'd love to come out and talk again. So that is the end of my briefing, and now I'll answer questions. So
If you've got a question, I'll come to you with a microphone.
So Sarasota, like all of Florida, has got a large snowbird population. So how do you prevent double counting?
That is a great question, and I get that actually a lot. We want you to fill out the questionnaire where you spend the majority of your year. So if you spend 6 months and 1 day in Sarasota, we want to count you here. They'll get a mailing at both residences. They'll get one up in Michigan and they'll get one down here. And if they fill them both out, when the data is tabulated and they run the data, when they look at it, they'll see somebody with the same name, same date of birth is on here twice. Why is that? And then somebody will go visit them, or they'll call them and say, you can't do it twice. Which one do you want to actually submit? So same thing with migrant populations. On April 1st, if they are true migrants that are moving through, that's where we'll count them, wherever they're at. And if you think about the full-time RVers that travel all the time, 3 months here, 2 months there, same thing. We'll go out and count them wherever the RV is at. Same thing with the homeless population. We have teams that will go out into March and the 1st of April and physically count everybody in the camps. So, any other questions for me?
Okay, well, I want to thank you very much.